Or on purpose.
Please let me know. It's black. Pictures of my kids. But if you find it, please let me know, because I was going to use it to call Chip to see if he's going to be joining us, and so I do not know the answer to that question. I'm hoping he just shows up on the screen, maybe. Okay, so thank you all for coming. I really appreciate that you all came out tonight. We're here to have Senator Cheri Steinmetz and hopefully Chip Neiman joining us from Zoom. He's down in Cheyenne at a education meeting. And then we have our newest representative, Alan Slagle, here to join us today. First public appearance for Alan. All right. So if we could start, Pastor Mick, would you pray with us?
I'd love to. And bow our hearts to the Father. We thank you tonight for these who have been elected once again to represent us, these godly men and women. Lord, we ask that you would lead them, guide them, give them direction, Father, to represent us well when they go into our legislative session. But Lord, in the meantime, as they work hard to figure out what to do best for our state, Lord, and our nation as well, as we fight against the federal government, we ask, Lord, that you would lead and guide and direct their steps. Thank you for your grace here tonight, for your presence with us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Mick. Garrett, would you do us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Garrett. All right. So our first guest tonight is Caleb Carter. He is the director of the Natural Resource Conservation District here in Weston County, and he's going to let us know what is going on and what their priorities are for the upcoming legislative session in the new year.
Well, thank you, Cheri, and thank you, everybody, for letting me take a few minutes to talk to all of you here. And our programs are really for you. And if it wasn't for all of you, there wouldn't be any point in doing our programs. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about what we're doing, some of our priorities moving forward here, and certainly help answer any questions as well. So our fiscal year, because the calendar year apparently is too easy, so like everybody, we have our own weird fiscal year. So we run July 1st to June 30th. And so our annual reports are based on that time frame. And we do an annual report and an annual plan of work every year that we put together. The report obviously gives an overview of what we've done over the last year. And then our plan of work outlines our priorities moving forward for the next year. So some of the things, just to give you a brief highlight here. I'm going to grab one of these so I make sure I don't get it wrong. I do have some copies of our reports over here if anybody would like one. And some business cards too. But just to give a brief overview of what the district is, for those of you that might not be familiar with how the Weston County Natural Resource District works, we are considered a special district. So we're similar to the Weston County Fire Protection District, Museum District, the Saltwater District, for example, different water districts around the county. We operate the same as these districts do. We do collect a mill levy. And we use that mill levy to then turn around and pay for our programs that we do, our conservation programs, and also as a match to bring in grants. That's a big thing that we've been working on since I started here a couple of years ago. Crazy to think that I've been in Newcastle for 2 years now, but that's what it's been, so it's been a lot of fun. We are run by a 5-person volunteer. And when people ask me how my job's going and everything, I tell them that I consider myself very lucky because I have a wonderful board that I work with, and I learn a lot from them all the time, and we've been aligned really well, and doing some good work. So it's been a lot of fun to work with them. Our board members are David Tisdale, he is our board chair. Tucker Hamilton is our vice chair. Emily Hardinger is secretary treasurer. And then we also have Gene Norman and Tom Streeter as additional supervisors on that board. So some of the highlights from this past year, I think when I started totaling up the numbers, I was really excited about some of the projects that we've done. So altogether, we cost shared on over 29,000 feet of pipeline last year, and we helped with 3 new wells, 7 new stock tanks, and we helped improve or affect over 16,000 acres with these projects. And this is through our conservation cost share program that we offer on an annual basis, and we offer $5,000 up to or 50% of the cost of the project up to $5,000. So really excited about that. We've got some great projects again going on this year. And in addition to that, we also were able to get 4 small water projects approved, which is a grant through the state of Wyoming to the Wyoming Water Development Office. And those are totaling about $73,000 that we're bringing into the county to help with those. And those are pipelines, new wells, spring development, and so really excited about that too. So we're looking for every opportunity to bring some additional funding into the state, here into the county, to be able to further these programs and projects for folks. And also Lacey before me was able to complete the Beaver Creek watershed study, which was the last watershed study that needed to be done in the county for us to be able to access these funds through the small water program. So really excited that she got that done, because that really paved the way for me to come in and continue on what she's been doing. And she was able to bring some of these projects in as well. But the whole county is now covered by the different watershed studies. So if anybody has projects that you're thinking about doing, about if it's kind of some kind of water development type project, come and talk to me, because I am looking for some additional projects to submit applications for that funding. And the state of Wyoming is very generous in the amount of money we can allocate for that. And so I feel very blessed to be in the state that does value conservation and values these projects. And so I really want to make sure that we're submitting the projects that we need to get done and being able to bring some of that funding here. So another program that we do, and we actually just kicked this off again, is our annual tree sale. So last year we sold almost 3,000 trees, which was a pretty big uptake from the last few years, so I was really excited about that. And we also have been able to find some additional funding to continue thinning on our forest. That's been a big priority in the district for about the last decade, ever since the last big epidemic of mountain pine beetle hit here around 2012 or so. And so we've been operating on funding through Wyoming State Forestry, and as everybody knows, everybody's through the pandemic has been feeling the squeeze on budgets. They have to reallocate funding, and we no longer able to access the funding to continue our mountain pine beetle projects. But we have been able to obtain some additional funding through the Wyoming Wildlife and Natural Resources Trust. And between Weston and Crook counties, we did a joint application, and we were awarded $400,000 to utilize to be able to continue thinning forests. We're also tackling meadow encroachment as well by pine and juniper, trying to reopen some of our meadows to benefit wildlife, but also to benefit livestock. Because most of these places where we're doing these things are also grazed. So we're opening up the forest, we're increasing grazing opportunities, increasing grass, but also benefiting wildlife. And in the bigger scheme, we're also benefiting mountain pine beetle, or trying to prevent another epidemic of mountain pine beetle and wildfire as well, trying to mitigate fuels for wildfire. So kind of a lot of different aspects to these projects, but really in a nutshell, what we're doing is looking for funding to continue to manage our forests and help our private landowners within the county manage their forests. Because you can look around, right? We can see the effects of wildfires that have happened in the area, and we're trying to help mitigate those as much as we can. So, along those lines, another thing that we've also been working on over the past year is we actually took over coordination on the ground of the Wildland and Urban Interface Grant that is currently held by the Weston County Fire Protection District. We're actually managing that grant on the ground and getting projects on the ground where we're helping create defensible space around people's homes, and as well as field treatments to reduce fuel loads on their properties and creating fuel breaks on property boundaries and ridge lines along roads and things like that. So we currently have about 60 acres either completed or in process of those treatments as well, with several more projects in the works. So really excited about that too, and continue that. And we still have some funding for that too, so if there's more people interested, we've got that as well. So really trying to make the forestry work a priority and trying to protect people's property, livelihoods, our communities, everything, right? So our way of life, I mean, a lot of what draws people to this area is the timber, right? It's the woods, it's being by the Black Hills, it's the nostalgia of having it there, being able to look out your window and see it. And a lot of times I talk to people that are new to the area, they're like, well, I moved here for the trees, I don't want to go cut them all down. But if I go take them somewhere and show them, like, this is what it looks like a year after or 2 years after you come in and you cut and you thin this out, and then they realize, like, oh, it actually looks better. There's grass, I have wildlife, and I feel like if it had a fire, I could defend it, and so on. And so that's a lot of what I've been trying to do, is just help people realize, like, hey, I realize you don't want to cut your trees down, but if you cut some of them down, it's going to look better, it's going to be healthier, and the trees that are left are going to do better. So some of the educational opportunities that we've provided as well we had a grazing workshop last summer. We had the Black Hills Natural Resource Youth Camp. We had 31 youth from Weston County that went and participated up there in our 3-day camp, which is held every June at Mallow. And that was the most that we had from Weston County there in a long time. So it was really exciting to see some of our local youth take advantage of that. We partnered with some of our neighboring conservation districts on that effort, and the district also covers the cost for any Weston County youth that attends. So we, again, trying to use the mill levy taxpayer funds that we achieved to be able to, give that back to the community. So Hazardous Waste Day was really successful. That's been an ongoing program as well that we're really excited about. Last year we collected over 9,000 pounds of waste and 300 gallons, and also 70 pounds of food for the bread basket. So, and I haven't totaled up the waste collection yet for this year, but my big goal for 2022 was to increase our food donation, and we more than tripled it. So, from this past collection just in September. So, we had over 200 pounds of food that we donated. So, I was really excited about that. And We've always used this as an opportunity to not only clean up our community, but also as a way to give back to the community by collecting food items for the food basket. And so really appreciate everybody's contributions there and the support we get from the community on that program. So with that, I can't forget too, we did, Teresa had me come over and teach soil health to her homeschool group as well, which was a lot of fun. We had good times. We got to texture soil, and we got to walk around and look at some different types of soil around the church there, and we also got to make some edible soil profiles. So anytime you get to go home with a treat is always a lot of fun. So that was really exciting too. And to give a little bit talk a little bit about moving forward, some of our priorities that we are working on for this coming year is I'm really wanting to do more education. I feel like I've been here a couple of years now. I've kind of figured out what it is that I'm doing. I always joke with people when I first started, my main goal was to not go to jail for some kind of fraud, to be very transparent about the money side of things, and to make sure that I understood all of that. And so I was hesitant to take on too much stuff at the first because I wanted to make sure I was doing what I knew needed to be done and doing it well and making my board happy and making them look good. So, but I have started to branch out. I'm offering some classes through EWC's Community Ed program and on trees, and so really excited about that. And so those will be starting in January. We'll be doing one a month through April. So talking about different trees and varieties and care and planting, and talking about developing your own windbreak and living still fence. And I'll be spending some time also talking about creating defensible space and protecting your property and things like that too. And talking about some of the programs that the district has that can help with that. So education can be a big component. And along with that, to touch on some of our new programs that we've implemented, we have started an outdoor education grant. And so this grant is open to any youth group, any school class, or other youth program that would be interested in utilizing these funds. It's a grant of up to $500. And my board has also said that they'd be willing to support up to $1,000 depending on the program and the activity and so on. This would be a reimbursable grant to encourage school groups, youth groups, and it can be Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, any of these youth-oriented groups to get outside and do some kind of hands-on educational activity centered around agriculture and natural resources. So that is something that we have open right now, so I'm really excited about that. And we're also offering cost shares on mat houses as well. That's been something that people have expressed a lot of interest in, and we were planning on ordering 20 of them, and we have received orders for 15 at this point. So if anybody's interested, we've got a few left. And those will be coming in here soon. So, so like I said too, we do have some grant money available now if you're interested in doing some thinning work, or if you know somebody that's interested in thinning the forest or doing some work along those lines. We do have funding available again for that, and we are still taking a few applications there. And so that's been one of our big, for the last year, really just trying to secure some funding for that. And Bob Budd with the Wyoming Natural Resource Trust has said that he is interested and willing to continue to support some forest health projects. So we're really excited that we have some support from the state level on that end, in preserving our forests. And I know on the other side of the line in South Dakota, they've been having a hard time finding funding and finding interest from the state level, to be able to bring funding to the Black Hills and continue to do some of this work on private land. And so again, I'm grateful that we're where we are, where we have a state that values that and is willing to get some money to these counties like Weston County and Cook County, for example, that have forest land in their districts and are willing to do the work and get the work done. So Let me see here. What else I have on district operations. Oh, one other exciting thing that I've had the opportunity to do is I had 2 interns through the vocational rehab program over the summer that worked with me, and that was a lot of fun. They got to help me in the community garden that we worked with the senior center on that, and we've been able to do some cleanup work over there and help manage weeds and kind of get it looking good again. They put in a lot of work on that, and they also helped develop this outdoor recreation program and the bat box cost share program. So I'm really excited about that. And one of these interns from the summer actually stayed on with us over the school year, Bradley Toth. She's been staying on with us, and it's been a lot of fun to work with her and to share some of the projects and things that we're working on, to get her out in the field, looking at projects, and to put her on some projects there in the office. She's been really good to work with. She's been learning a lot, and it's been fun to have that. And nice to have people help to get some more projects done. So it's always nice to have extra hands. I am the only employee, so anytime I can have somebody helping us with things that need to be done, that makes a big difference. So,
It's pretty ugly, isn't it?
just going to see if there's anything else I want to touch on here. Oh yeah, one of the other things too is that we're really starting to focus more on is erosion on our rangeland. And this is the last thing I'll touch on here before I take questions and turn it over here. But there's these structures called Z-dike structures, and they're basically rock structures that can be built by hand that can mitigate erosion in our wet meadow areas where we're getting head cutting and we're getting erosion and we're starting to get channeling of streams or channeling of runoff water and things like that. And it's starting to affect, our grazing and our rangeland quality. And I've got a picture, maybe we can bring it up here in just a minute. Or actually it's on my other report, never mind. But I've attended a workshop on this method of building these different structures, and I'm working with Willow Fish, with the Wyoming Game and Fish, to host a workshop here in Newcastle on.
He's creeping up on you.
Okay. We are planning on hosting a workshop next summer here in Weston County on how to build these structures. And the idea of these is they're a low-tech, more or less a low-maintenance way to mitigate some of the erosion issues that we're having on our rangelands. And the biggest thing is you just need labor to move the rock. And it does take some effort, it takes some labor. You can also incorporate timber into it, so there's a possibility that we can come into some of these slash piles from our forestry projects and get some of that timber out of there and utilize that in some of these structures as well. Which, if everything goes the way I'm planning, we should continue to have lots of those as well. So, excited about that, and excited to get some of these structures out here on the ground to try and help mitigate some of these erosion issues that we're having. So, there will be more coming on that, and hopefully we can continue to write some more grants and get some additional funding to be able to do some cost shares on these programs as well. So with that, I think that is about what I wanted to touch on. I didn't want to take too much time. Again, I do have some reports over here. If you're interested, you're welcome to take one. So, yes, sir.
How much money did the federal government pay Weston County over that non-taxable thing,
Are you talking about to the district?
The national, the feds.
So we don't get any federal funding. Our funding is purely through our local bill levy.
So you don't know how much it is?
To the county, I do not know.
Pardon?
I don't know how much the county received, no. I didn't receive any.
I just curious.
Yes, sir. Yep. Some of the grants that we apply for, in some cases, might be federal funding. Currently, the funding we're operating on is all either local funding through our
What
levy or
I'm talking
state.
about is, that is money, if it was didn't belong to the feds and it belonged to people, the county could tax it. Whereas if having the feds, they don't tax it, but the feds agree to pay so much bribery money, for us to let them have it. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, I did not get any of that funding. Anybody else have any other questions or anything? Yep.
No, I don't have no question, no.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. I think we're good then. Move on along. Thank you, Cheri. And thank you, everybody.
All right, so I had put Senator Steinmetz next on the agenda because of priority. We have Chip Neiman on the phone. Chip, can you hear us? No? Do you want to start and I'll try and get
Sure. Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay.
That'll be fine.
Cheri, do you see the microphone up next to Chip Neiman's name? Does that do anything?
Oh, okay, we'll put it on speakerphone. Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, now I can hear you here.
Okay, I'll touch you on speakerphone.
So now you
Hang on.
Okay.
How's that?
Well, that's clear as crystal now.
Now it's still, echoing.
So we got something feeding you back.
Okay, how's that?
Okay.
All right, will this work?
Put the microphone.
Okay, all right, so we got, all right, here we go. Here we go. All right, so when you talk, I'll put you by my phone.
So this is why many people have asked me before if I could Zoom all of our meetings. Yeah, no, I can't. Sorry.
Well, thanks for hanging in there with our experiment tonight. And, okay, I'm going to start out, Chip, and then we'll let you go. And Alan, would that work for you? Can you hear me, Chip?
Yeah, that's good.
All right, okay. Well, thank you guys for coming out tonight, and thanks to Cheri and the Republican Party for letting us communicate. I'm here really, I'll go over a few items that we're going to be working on for the legislative session, but I also am here to hear from you because I represent you and I want to know your thoughts. So if you've got questions or comments about anything I talk about or about something that I don't cover, please let me know because that's why we drove up here tonight. So, and we look forward to working with your new Commissioner Garrett and with Dawn. And is there anybody else who's an elected person in the room that I missed? City Council, great, perfect. So we've got a lot of us here and a good team to work with. So, what's that? What are you? Which are you? Coroner, yay! Let's hope we don't have to work with you.
Just in case if you fall over, we got you down.
Okay. Well, I hit a deer last time I was leaving here when I came up for Hanson's wedding, and there are a lot of deer on the road tonight, so we don't have to see you. So, all right. Well, as you know, this weekend we'll have legislative elections in Casper. And so that will tell us a lot about the direction of the state. So this year we have 55 Republicans in the House of Representatives. And those numbers are, it's a razor thin margin who will see for Speaker of the House. It will either be Albert Summers or Mark Jennings. And so, if you know your voting records at all, you'll know that there's a slight difference there in how they would choose to represent their party and their constituency. And so it will be very interesting to see how things turn out and what direction our state will go. As you know, last session, there were 3 bills that were ignored by the current leadership, which is fairness in women's sports, banning critical race theory in our schools, and then a ban on chemical abortions. And all 3 of those passed overwhelmingly in the state Senate, and we sent them over to the House and did not ever see them get a hearing on the floor or assigned to a committee. So unfortunately, that was the case this year. We're hopeful for a better outcome this year, right? Representative Slagle and Neiman? Yeah, so, and I believe there might be someone running for leadership here from this county that represents you. So, some of our Senate goals is we want a budget that is conservative and transparent. So anyone who's watched our budgeting process or been involved in local government at all knows that the legislature has coffee cans everywhere. And we have those pots of money that will fill up and tip over to other funds and do all sorts of things. And we have a lot of automatic draws on certain funds for K-12 education, which kind of obfuscate the true cost of education. And so we're going to try to simplify that so we can all understand it and so the public can understand it. And so we can make good budgetary decisions. We would like to work on school funding that protects the classroom teacher, but then also make sure that we're getting the right bang for our buck for our students. And we'd like to see school choice advance this year. Yeah, a lot of our issues that we're having could be solved if parents had the opportunity to decide where their children were educated and if the money followed the student. But that's our taxpayer dollars, and we pay 46 mills in Goshen County, and that goes into K-12 education. This year we have $950 million in excess of what was projected because of the increase in property taxes. I bet you looked at your bill. They've gone way up, about 22% this year. I think it was close to that last year. In some places, that's the state average. 8.4% they estimate in ag land, that's gone up, and then around 46%, I think, in our industrial and commercial. So that's one of the areas that the Senate is working on, and I know the House is too. What do we do with property taxes so that we don't become the Indians and tax ourselves right out of our state? So what are the solutions to that? Is anybody else concerned about that? I mean, raise your hand if property taxes are a big deal. So pretty much everybody is being affected by that. What about, so we're talking about education, what about school choice? Are you guys in for that? I mean, school choice?
Yes.
I'm not saying we, hurt our public education system in any way. I'm just saying that we provide opportunities for parents to make those decisions for themselves. Protection of parental rights and rights of conscience for our, CRT, which is critical race theory. Has everybody heard of critical race theory? Yeah, we really felt like we needed to do something about that last time and get it done, so we're going to go again at that. And then fairness in women's sports, which was the bill to make sure that boys aren't competing in women's sports or using our locker rooms or bathrooms, all of that. So we're going to take another run at that this year. And then we have higher education, which is the University of Wyoming and our community colleges. We would like to see the University of Wyoming return to our land grant mission, which is agriculture and engineering, and those be focuses, and our classical education be focuses rather than some of the liberal ideology that we're seeing out of our university. When they blew a sitting senator off of the stage for saying that there is such a thing as male and female, we have a problem. And so I think we can do better. And so we're working with that. Our community colleges are, in a sense, underfunded because they serve a lot of areas. I mean, we reach clear up into here with EWC, and yet the citizens of Goshen County are the ones paying the bill. So we've got to find a way to help equalize that out and make sure that our community colleges receive the proper funding for all the areas they're serving. And a lot of times they're outreach for the University of Wyoming as well. So we're looking at that. I touched on property tax reform, and then one of our hallmarks will be right to life this year. Because as you know, last time we passed the trigger bill, and that has been challenged in court for various reasons. And so we'd like to see that. And I actually would like to see a constitutional amendment that says human life begins at conception.
Amen.
So let's just have the argument now. Is it a human life, yes or no?
Yes.
And if it is a human life, then should it be protected, yes or no?
Yes.
So, even my opponents, I would hope, should agree that it is the citizens of the state of Wyoming that should make this decision. And this should go on the ballot, and we should see if they want it to be a part of our Constitution or not. Because the Supreme Court said it's time for the states to decide. And I am saying it's time for the citizens of the state to decide, not the legislature, the citizens. Election integrity. So that's another big issue. Anybody in this room think that's?
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay. So we want to preserve the Secretary of State's duties. We don't think that just because you didn't like how the election turned out, you should strip him of his constitutional authority. And we need to work on crossover voting. We all saw what Liz Cheney did this year, and congratulations, you defeated her. She's really lost her mind now, so. Corey, my husband, says we're just seeing our true colors, unfortunately. And then we want to work on some energy policy to make sure that, you know, we're the Saudi Arabia of America. There's no reason we should have fuel prices and diesel prices and at the prices they are in Wyoming, in the state of Wyoming. And there's no reason we should be allowing the state of California or Colorado, because they want a green portfolio, to dictate energy prices on our citizens in the state. So that's I don't know how far we can get, but we're going to work on it. And then along with that, the prohibition of ESG, which that is environmental social governance, if you don't know what that is. And that is a Chinese way of, social credits that affect our banking system and our government. And, if you check the right boxes for Joe Biden, then you can have a loan, or you can do this or that. And so we've got to stop that right now. And Senator Biden has a good bill to work on that, and And then we're going to try to beef up some of our legislative service office operations, because I don't know how much we talk about this. And as conservatives, we always want to be fiscally conservative, but sometimes you need the help to create good policy. And we're not a full-time legislature, and I'm proud of that. And I want us to stay that way. But with the increase in technology and the demands on our time, we need a little more help. We just do. And so that's something that I've been seeing in my term in the legislature. It also sometimes creates an imbalance of power, because the executive branch is working all day, every day, and they have full-time staff. We have attorneys that help us, but sometimes we need specialized help. for example, in the lawsuit against our trigger bill, if we could bring in a professional there to help us with that and contract that out a little bit, our attorneys aren't versed in that kind of law. So things like that that could help make our branch of government work a little better for you, and help serve you better. So those are kind of some of our priorities in the Senate. As you know, Ogden Driscoll will be running for president in the Senate. Larry Hicks is running for vice president, and Dave Kinsey, majority floor leader. So that's our set of candidates. We haven't heard of anyone else running. And so right now, that's what it looks like for the Senate. Just one other thing, our fiscal profile, if you follow our finances at all as a state, we're flush with money. We got a lot of the ARPA money, which is the American Recovery and Something Act. And it replaced some of our general fund budget. We conserved some of that by replacing it with ARPA. So we have some money there, and then as I told you, our property taxes have gone up quite a bit. So our rainy day account, when we left, was at 1.9 billion, and now it's at 2.7, almost $3 billion. So it's increased quite substantially. We have a real opportunity for savings. So we could, 20% of our state budget comes from our investment earnings. And so if we put more money into our corpus or our permanent fund that we wouldn't be tempted to spend, then it would be in perpetuity and for future generations of our kids and grandkids to help, replace some of that lost revenue from our fossil fuels and things that are trying to shut down. Now, we need to fight that fight, and we need to say we're not going to let that happen. But until then, it doesn't hurt to beef up our investment earnings. So with that, that's kind of what I wanted to share with you, and I appreciate all your interaction with me on the topics that we've talked about. I'm really looking forward to working with Representative Slagle and Representative Neiman again this year. But I would, I can either let them talk or I can take questions now. Which would you prefer, Madam Chairman?
Whatever the people want.
Whatever you'd like to do. So if you want to ask me some questions, I'm here, or we can let our other representatives speak. Which would you prefer?
Let's hear from all three.
All right, sounds good. Should I let Chip go next? And can you hear us, Chip?
Yes.
Okay, you're up. I'm putting the mic by my phone.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Cheri. It's good to see all of you. For those of you, I can just see Danny Pouch. I can see a plaid shirt. I think that's Dan Pouch, isn't it?
Good to see you, sir.
Good to see all of you tonight. Thankful for the opportunity to be able to visit with you and hopefully answer some questions and fill you in on some of the things that are going on. I'm actually in Cheri right now, and I'm here attending a joint education meeting here. We're going to go over some of the different bills that are going to be introduced and be carried by the joint education committee. And so, not been a great day for me here. I've been here spending my time voting no on spending. We're trying to put together some different bills, fund some different things that I think would probably be better served if they just kind of did a better job of spending the money that they're actually just finding more ways to add more money that exists now. But as the thing I trust, and Cheri kind of alluded to it, we're going to have, I believe, a very different house when we get ready to come in there. And so, do you want me to get on you, Cheri?
I was just going to see if it was better, but we probably should just keep.
How's that?
Better.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and shut this phone off. That's going to work. You want me to shut the phone off?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Okay. How's that?
Good.
Good. Okay.
All right, yeah, no, I think we're going to see a very different legislature going forward here. Legislators like Alan, you guys got them elected. It's going to make a huge difference in what we're going to be dealing with. It really done some audio difficulties in them.
Yeah. Can you keep talking?
You hear me? Good?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Where's your speaker at?
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Was it better with the phone? I think it's better.
Oh, Cheri right now.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it this way, okay?
Okay.
Is that still gonna work?
Yeah, I think that's better, don't you?
Is that better? Okay. All right, well, we'll continue on. Yeah, some of the major key issues that we're dealing with right now, and that's going to be coming up here on Saturday, is what we electing leadership. Currently in the House, we have two different slates running. We have the more establishment slate with Albert Summers, Jared Olson, Clark Smith, and Cyrus Western. And so we are going to be forwarding a conservative slate in an effort to try to maybe bring in a lot of this spending and do a little better job being more conservative down there. That'll be Mark Jennings and myself as majority floor leader, Rachel Rodriguez-Williams as speaker pro tem, and also Clarence Steinmetz that you're majority whip. And so that's a big deal, guys. That is going to have a dramatic effect on what happens and what legislation is forwarded through the legislature for the next 2 years. Our desire is to work with the Senate. The Senate wants to bring a lot of transparency to the way we finance the state and how we spend our money, and we very much support that and are very much aligned on that. And so I think if we can get into that position, people better be able to clean up a lot of this spending and bring a lot more clarity and transparency to the people of the state so they know what's going on, they know where they're going to go. Some of the bigger issues that I see, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, Cheri kind of elaborated on it, and it's very much the same in the House. Spending control, we're wanting to bring more realistic spending, even though we're very flush right now. I do remember less than 2 years ago where we were in a position where we had to cut $458 million from the budget. So this could disappear very quickly. So we've got to be very smart about how we manage this money and put it away for the long term and help take the pressure off the people of the state. School choice is going to be a big part of what we're doing. In fact, I had meetings today with legislators in regards to what we're going to do to provide some different options for parents. We're looking at ways for the money to follow the kids. The parents will be in more control of where those dollars go. And so hopefully with a new, more conservative House and Senate that is very willing to work with us, we can see a bunch of that changing quickly here. Another big deal, Cheri touched on it. I've had multiple meetings around my district here. I guess the only town I actually didn't meet in is Beulah, Wyoming. Talking about property taxes and going from our current method to looking at a potential acquisition type tax, that you're going to be taxed on to pay for the property as opposed to what somebody else next to you is willing to pay for the property. And so that is an effort to try to control, really at this point, an out of control spending opportunity when we see these tax rates just being declined and putting so much more pressure on everybody for fixed income than everyone else. So in the education meeting today, I just listened to what's going on the western side of the state in Teton and Pitt County. We actually had to allow a different way of putting some money towards housing because they're looking at $4,000 a month to rent a home. over there in Teton County or more. Average home, Teton and Lincoln County, $750,000. And so we're looking at some major increases in land values and prices where people are willing to pay. And so it's making it very hard for us to be able to, basically at that point where their teachers are having to spend over half of their income to rent a home. And they've lost a lot of teachers that they couldn't hire. They hired, but they couldn't find a home. There's going to be no homes available. What homes are available are so astronomical they can't afford to rent. So that's an issue that we're facing. Property taxes are going to be a major part of that because they all are affected by that increase in those values. Another little update for you. On the 21st of November, you know, we passed the trigger bill in this last session, and then we immediately was attacked by a group out of Teton County, and it's been held by a judge in Teton. They're going to actually have on the 21st of this month, there's going to be a hearing that is going to allow or not allow Rachel Rodriguez-Williams and myself to intervene on behalf of the Wyoming legislature in support of the trigger bill and to be able to present arguments about the basically informed and several issues that we felt were not properly addressed in the state's defense of the trigger bill. So we'll know more on the 21st. If they're not going to allow us to be able to intervene, to testify, then the next step is the state Supreme Court. And so that's a good thing for folks to be praying that we would have favor in that and that we would be allowed to hear the folks that are actually defending that and working with us as the Alliance Defending Freedom. Their attorneys are handling this, and they've come in also walking right to life, and they are fighting to try to preserve the trigger bill. Even if that continues to progress, I've also got the Human Life Protection Act that is going to be coming, and that's also fit in line with what Cheri's talking about, is to create a constitutional amendment that recognizes life from conception. And so, just a few things that are going on. There's a lot of big issues that happened this year in the legislature, and I'm just very thankful. And I just want to tell all of you there in Newcastle tonight how much I appreciate what you did in getting Representative Slagle elected. I look so forward to Alan and so many others across the state. This is going to be the largest freshman class to enter the Wyoming House of Representatives, according to what I was told today, in history. The only other one was 23 that came in at one time here a few years back. I believe they said there's going to be 27 new legislators coming into the House this go around. So a real paradigm shift in the direction of what we do in Wyoming. And I just hope and pray that the establishment recognizes what the people of this state want. And if they couldn't read the writing on the wall in print, I would hope that the general would have settled in their minds. But we'll know that Saturday, because that decision will be made then, and then we will go forward from there one way or another. So I'm glad to answer any questions. If you guys have anything for me, I'm comfortably in my room in Cheyenne. I don't have to go anywhere, so I got as much time as you want and as much time as you have. So if you have any questions, we'll try to answer them.
Okay, there's one question.
So you're going to go for leadership in the House between Jennings and Biggs? Yes. Chip, do the new legislators get to vote on leadership, or do the old ones vote? You know, the ones who voted out? It's the new ones. Oh, okay.
Ones that are new are going to vote on leadership. This is for the 67th legislature, so when they're sworn in, or not when they're sworn in, but when we do a Casper, this vote will take place with just the Republican box. And so there's going to be only 57 out there. There's only 5 Democrats, I think, left in the Wyoming House out of 62. So there's going to be 57 of us there, and it will be the newly elected representatives that will be voting for leadership. So that's why we're so encouraged that it looks like we do have, at this point, I mean, I don't want to chase anything, but right now, it looks like we've got a solid 29 votes. And so if those folks can all hold and make sure that they stay the course, that we will elect a solidly conservative slate going into the voting in the House later on. So, yes, the new legislators will vote.
Anybody else? Well, there's two more. So just talking to that end. Don't put your hand over it.
Yeah, Chip, I was just curious, how certain are you on a percentage basis that you're going to be able to get some real good conservative bills through the House, like, for example, like we was talking about with the voting, you know, getting that straightened out the best we got right now?
Did you hear that? Hang on a second. Okay, I don't know what happened.
I must have touched something.
He turned my volume down. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead now.
Oh, okay. Quite honestly, Dan, it is going to be a very, very, very hard fight because we've also got to consider that once we're out of the caucus and we have leadership elected, that we are going to have to deal with 5 Democrats. And at this point, the legislature in the House is almost evenly divided when you take into consideration the Democrats. And so, as far as being able to pass legislation, a lot of that work is going to be done by having a conservative caucus vote that is going to bring in a speaker and a majority floor leader that is going to have a really tremendous amount to say about what legislation comes out and what doesn't. And so we're going to be able to see conservative legislation we've not been able to get out of the drawer. Cheri alluded to that last year. She talked about it. Fairness in Women's Sports Act, crossover voting, a lot of this different legislation, the abortifacients bill, they passed the Senate, but when they got to the House, the more liberal leadership never allowed it out of the drawer. Well, with conservative leadership, Dan, we're going to see that kind of legislation be in the front of the drawer, and it's going to be out first if it comes from our side. And so I think we're going to, quite honestly, I think if we win in the caucus, in the initial vote on Saturday, I believe we will see a lot of these more moderate, middle-of-the-road Republicans come towards the more conservative line. So I'm very encouraged. I think we are actually going to see this legislation get through, Dan, and most of it is going to be determined by what happens on Saturday, as to how much and what legislation makes it.
Thank you.
If I could add just one little thing too, is one of the things that's so important with leadership and how you run bills through the session and all of that, is if you get them through at a certain time period, then you have days left, so if the governor vetoes them, you can override that veto. But if you push them out, so I don't know if you guys remember the Born Alive bill we had, the first time that passed, it passed when we were out of session to the governor's desk, and then he was able to veto that, and because we weren't in session, we couldn't override it, even though we have the votes to do it. So that's another reason leadership is so important.
That's right, and Cheri couldn't be more truthful on that, because we are wanting to be able to get important legislation on the front end. We want to see things that are important to the people of Wyoming get out of the House, through committees, and over to the Senate. We want to work with our Senate counterparts to get that important legislation through their committees and to us as soon as possible, that we don't
Chip. It's for anybody that might be able to answer it. What's the next step on the investigation of Gordon with the TerraPower situation?
I don't, maybe.
know about an investigation, what might investigate?
The Wyoming Republican Party wants an investigation of Governor Martin Gordon alleged connection with Soros and whatnot. It said that the majority in Casper was supporting it.
I think that was a resolution passed by the Wyoming Republican Party this weekend.
Okay, I didn't
Is
know
what
if
I
it
read, and Corey's the national committee man, we could maybe have him address that. My husband Corey, and Alan was there, he's your state committee man, and so he could probably address that. We weren't there this weekend, so we took a little break. Do you want, can I get your question first?
Or you get to him, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Remind him.
Anytime.
So on election integrity, I saw it coming through Wyoming and I've heard a lot about it with the ranked choice voting. Have you heard of that? Because I hear they're trying to push that.
Yeah, they're trying to push ranked choice. That actually was working, trying to pass its way out. I think they kind of figured out there at the end before the corporations committee kind of died on it, that that's not going to gain any real traction. The people of Wyoming do not want that. In my mind, that was kind of a failed effort on a light gun committee that was just trying to do what they could get through at the last bit there. Ranked choice is not supported by the great number of the people of Wyoming. They're really the people of Wyoming that I talk to want runoff elections. They want to have the opportunity to have a runoff.
Yep, that's good. And I'm just gonna pass the microphone, if it's okay with you, Cheri, to Alan and let him answer that question and then take his segment, unless you have any closing remarks. Chip?
Well, that's it. Unless somebody has other questions, I just am thankful to be able to do this. Thank you, Cheri, for putting this together, and thank you all for taking the time to do that.
And I would agree with that before I pass on. And all the stuff I told you about are just things that different colleagues of mine in the Senate are working on. And so after our caucus this weekend, maybe we'll have like a solid Senate agenda as to what we're going to, how we move the state forward. But I think they're all issues near and dear to your hearts, and so I appreciate your support and seeing y'all tonight.
Thank you.
You want to stay on, Chip, in case you have something to say, or?
Yeah, I want to hear it out.
Okay, I'm gonna send you by Alan, and he's gonna come over. You have to come over by Chip so he can hear you.
Okay, thank you, Cheri.
You're welcome.
As far as the resolution that came out of the State Central Committee this weekend, basically it was one that was brought by Lincoln County, and I'm not sure, I think they were just asking for the governor to be investigated. I don't think there is an ongoing investigation at this point. So that's what I know about that. I guess basically Cheri and Chip have covered the issues that I know about that we're needing to address actually. And one other issue I might bring up is the issue of federal government overreach and what the state can do to combat that or to fight back against that. I know it was up to my kids. They say the state should just say no and just stop doing what the federal government says, but I'm not sure it's quite that easy. But anyway, I guess that's about all that I have to say. Do you guys have any other questions that you'd like to ask me? Yes, Patricia.
It's for all three of you. Since this is a small family group, I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat for a minute. So when we went off of the gold standard, we became a petrodollar in America. So our dollar was propped up by Saudi Arabia, who would only sell oil if it was in US dollars, and in trade we protected Saudi Arabia. And it seems like that's kind of falling apart. And there could be a day when our dollar is no longer backed by anything. And so then, Cheri, our $2 billion surplus is where? Is there anyone looking into what we're gonna do if we become Venezuela, basically?
You got a good answer for that, Chip, or Cheri? I don't have much of that
There is some move afoot to look at even some gold backs, investments in Wyoming to try to create an opportunity for us to have something that's more stable. They're even talking about, Bob I actually showed it to me first, actual gold backed dollars and trading currency that are actual gold that we can invest in and keep that more tangible, real value. So maybe Cheri can elaborate on what she heard from the Senate. I don't know.
Well, that's a good question, and it's not an easy answer. And it's something that we're aware of and we're watching. Bob I actually gave me one of those gold backs, and I have one in my car. I didn't drive it tonight, or I'd show it to you. And they have a way of printing gold. They take it and they break it down and they make it into these really beautiful images. And there's even some Wyoming gold backs. Have you seen them? And so each one is a different weight of gold. They print more gold on it than the others. And so those are available. There actually are some businesses in Casper that are taking them as currency right now. So I'm not sure how we're going to solve this problem, but we are aware it is a problem. And I think really that's the best answer I can give you right now, because if you come up with a solution, you can call.
Yeah, I would say one other thing that they had some of those gold backs at the Central Committee meeting in Casper this weekend, and Carl Allred said one of the advantages of the gold back currency is if certain businesses use it, you aren't charged sales tax when you use them. And I don't know how that all works, but that was one thing to go along with that. Any other questions for any of us?
Cheri, I guess this is for you. How certain are you going to be that bills that they get through the House, good bills, are going to get through the Senate as well?
Well, I have a lot of confidence in the Senate because we've passed some really conservative bills the last few years that we can't get through the House. And so if we continue on that trend, which I hope we will, we should have a very good opportunity. And I think, too, we've added 3 conservative senators into the Senate. Now, one of them, the seat that flipped was conservative, so Tom James is not coming back. And Stacey Jones is coming in there, and she's a Republican. And so we'll look forward to seeing, what her county stance is on some of these issues, because I'm not exactly sure what every, new legislator will vote like. We know Dan Larson's voting record because he's coming over from the House. We know that Bob White is very conservative because he's a part of Campaign for Liberty, and he's been very active in the state of the Republican Party, working to reform things. And so we know what he will do for sure. But there's some others that are, they seem very conservative, and we just don't know for sure, until we start doing our work. But I think the Senate is in good shape. I do, and I think our leadership will take us in the right direction.
Despite the president.
And
So, Cheri,
yes.
how does these committees work in Senate or the House? Who appoints all these people? Who gets to make all the decisions in these committees rather than allowing the people we elect to have a good voice in this stuff? Just because Alan, he's just a freshman, so he's just kicked to the side or what?
Well, let's hope not.
Well, I mean,
Because
that's-
if Chip Neiman and Mark Jennings are elected, then they will pick the committee assignments and
So
the.
you got Ogden Driscoll on the Senate side more than
We
likely.
do, we do.
And is the other people going to be conservative? His board record, I'm not real thrilled with.
Yeah, and I believe that he will be fair to everyone, I really do. So we will know
We'll see.
more after our elections, and we'll see what committee assignments he is taking, input from our good majority floor leader, Larry Hicks. And so we'll see what committees look like when we're done there. But in the Senate, it's not like the House where they can pigeonhole a lot of people, because there aren't as many of us, and we have the same amount of committees that we have to work on. And so in the House last time, it was really criminal what they did to the conservatives. They held them out and held them down to one committee, and in the House it hadn't been that people in leadership or a chairman would have two committees. And they spread their chairman and their leadership out across the board and ran the gamut so that conservatives would have more committee assignments and diluted their voting power. And so with the conservative slate over there, I think we'll see a lot of things change. Yeah. And if not, there's still so many of them, they aren't going to be able to work around them like they did the last time. I mean, it just won't be possible. And vice versa. And vice versa. Our people over there, Republicans, are going to have to work together this time. And honestly, in the Senate, we have a pretty collegial atmosphere. Even though we disagree on things, people are not disagreeable over there. And I've been in the House, I've been in the Senate both. In the House, and I always tell the freshmen this, the House is like a barroom brawl, and the Senate is like a gentleman's cigar club. So that's kind of what it's like, the lay of the land. A lot of times in the Senate, you can go visit with your colleagues over lunch and hash out what they might like or dislike about your bill and work on amendments and get that done. But the sheer volume of people in the House, it's hard to do that. But still, the more you solidify your relationships and work with people, because seriously, on one issue like private property rights, you might be perfectly aligned with somebody, even a Democrat in Wyoming, or on oil and gas issues. But when you get to a social issue, you might be on the other side of the aisle, but from a person in any party, it could be. So that's just kind of how it is.
Walter Sprague. I'm taking off my newsletter journal hat. This is just me. And it's for all three of you. We hear about stuff that you guys can do or are trying to do. But what about us? I know we can pray. I know that we call Alan or Chip. Our voices are heard there. But obviously, yes, you too, Cheri.
Thank you.
But obviously,
no, I'm just like.
obviously, things need to go further than just you three. What can we do to help that get out there to the other representatives and the other senators that this is our will? Because one of the things I saw this election cycle was it wasn't as much involvement as I was hoping for.
Well, I think the election cycle with Harriet Hageman sent a very strong message that we want conservative values represented in our state, and that we won't tolerate someone who's not listening to us. And so I think that was heard loud and clear. I'm not sure, I always listen to my constituents first. I care what other people in the state think, but and I always say, if your values line up with mine, I'm representing you too. I mean, if we're aligned on life, I don't just represent Goshen County, I represent the state, or I don't just represent Western County, or I don't just represent Niobrara. I represent the state on that, and I think financially we do. But there are local issues that, we may not always agree on. I mean, we're in hardship counties over here. And so what we think, and that's why I always meet with our local governments before session, what we think on some issues may not be what Natrona and Albany think. And so then there's those divisions too. So I wish I had a good answer for you. You can send emails and you can send to other legislators, but your legislators are going to listen to you more. That's just how it is. And so getting information out, I think, to your colleagues in other areas of the state is a good way to do things. The network of the Republican Party and some other groups across the state are powerful organizations like Right to Life. Marty Halverson is, and so those are some ideas I have. Maybe Alan should have some others. Jim?
I Walter, to answer your question, as far as I'm concerned, if you have any ability for any family members or anybody else that have a connection with, or you encourage to talk to their legislators to say, listen, we want conservative, not only in Western County, Goshen County, Niobrara County. Encourage your family. Say, listen, if you couldn't tell what the people of Wyoming want in the primary, then it should have been very clear in the general, because we removed Democrats there. It was kind of unheard of. They've been there for a long time. I mean, Andy Clifford, Andy LeBeau, has been in there in the reservation under Rich for 40 years. Sarah Mann beat her, moved her out of that, a Republican, now represent the Wind River Indian Reservation. And if that's not, to me, in my opinion, a clarion call saying that the people of the state of Wyoming want conservative leadership, I don't know what else you need to see. And that's, I guess, kind of my attitude in it is, this establishment leadership that is saying, no, we need to get in this direction, that we've got people in the pipeline and it's their due to come and do this. I think the people of the state of Wyoming outrun them, and they want conservative leadership. So my encouragement, Walter, to you would be to share with everybody involved, to spread that word around the state, get the word out. People want conservative representation, obvious from these elections. And we expect you guys to us represent them. And I think that's really important at this. And it's even to the standpoint of being able to, if you can find time, and it's critical, folks, I can't stress this enough. If you can find do like this, as awkward as this is, it works better a lot of other times, but this is still effective. Still in the committee meetings. Come to the legislature, sit in all the meetings, be there to share your views and your values with these legislators. So that it's not just lobbyists, but it's the people, the taxpayers, the constituents, the voters of Wyoming that are here saying, we want this or that, and we want you to listen to them. That's what makes the difference. And we've already seen it happen. We're looking at these changes. We're looking at a diametrically different House legislature. It's amazing what has happened in the past 2 years, really. If you look at these 2 election cycles, it's incredible what the people of the state of Wyoming have done. The state party, grassroots efforts all over have changed the complexion and the dimensions of these bodies. And you guys just need to get out there and continue to confirm that that's what we want. And we expect you guys to listen to us and reflect our values.
Well, and that's a really good point. That is a really good point about testifying in committee meetings and giving input in the interim. That's a big deal. It really is. When it gets hard is when you come into session and you get 500 emails a day. Then it's harder to listen to everybody across the state. And so that was what I was thinking about because I try to look for names I know and the people in my district during session because I really want to hear from them. And sometimes you get 100 or 200 or 300 form emails a day, and then you're just trying to clean out your inbox so you can find the ones that you really need to see. And so, like Convention of States or or somebody like that will have a form letter out, and then, yeah, it's harder. But Chip's right, the committee meetings are really important, and during session too, if you can show up and testify on a bill, or Zoom in and testify on a bill, that's a huge deal. And we love to hear from the public, because we hear from lobbyists all the time, or state agencies. And one of the things that somebody said to me is, well, how come the state agencies always get to go first? That's not respectful to the public. Well, the reason we do that is so that you can hear what's going on, you can hear what the state agency has to say, and then you can talk after them instead of them talking after you, so that you can hear their kind of side of it too. So it's not a disrespectful thing, it's actually a respectful thing, so that the public can hear all the information, because sometimes you don't have it without hearing from the agency. So, anything else, Alan?
I just wanted to stress the importance of attending committee meetings. I mean, last year I went to many of the corporations committee meetings on redistricting, and there was other issues going on. And there was a couple of those that they were dealing with other issues. There was a lot of the public there, and they did not address those issues that day because the public was there. They postponed it to another meeting, hoping there wouldn't be as many public people there. So people were there wanted to. So attending those meetings, even if it's hard, is effective, because at those meetings there wasn't over a dozen people there, but that was enough of their constituents that they didn't want to have to vote on something in front of them, and so they postponed the vote till another meeting.
Yeah, we found out how good a job we do down there. When we went down for the special session, you had several hundred down there, and it didn't do a damn bit of good.
Well, it did the first day when we were all there, but as the session continued on, there was less and less of us there, and they voted more and more liberal as it went on.
But look at the election.
Yes, look at the election.
So it's hard to be a man that never gives up. And so that's just, we have to be in for the long haul. Some of these reforms could be generational if the Lord tarries that long. We don't know.
Cheri, basically my senator has said he's not going to support us if we didn't give him any money.
She's your senator.
No, she's not my senator. The other guy is.
Talk to her, she'll listen.
I will listen to you, and I don't want to wade into that. Darn it, this was a tough election cycle all the way around. And in Goshen County, we had an independent running against our Republican candidate, and so it was a tough election cycle all the way around. But now, we have to govern the state of Wyoming, and we have to pull up our britches and do the work that people sent us to do, and work with the people that the people sent us to work with. And so that's my commitment to you. That's what I plan to do. And I'm here to serve in any way I can.
And it's obvious why we need runoff elections. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, to the point that several people just made, when in Walter's question on what you can do here to make a difference, you guys are making a difference. Look what you did. I'm not sure if you caught what Chip said, or if you understood the ramifications of Saturday's vote. Saturday's vote is pivotal. It will determine how much stuff that you want gets done. That man right there is, when we talk about the person who puts things in the drawer, leaves things in the drawer, takes things out of the drawer, that could be the man. He's your representative, and he just got help from Alan Slagle, and he has Cheri backing him up in the Senate. This vote on Saturday, if Mark Jennings gets elected Speaker and Chip Neiman gets to be Majority Floor Leader, that is huge. That is huge. And you ask what you can do. These are your people, and you call them, and they're going to listen to you. These are the people that you elected, because they listened to you. You guys made a huge difference. So keep it up.
Thank you, Cheri. Is there any other questions for any of us? Yeah, Connie.
Not so much a question, but a comment. The one thing that you're seeing, you're hearing, is people who are fed up. We're fed up. You know, the comment of, oh, people buy people, what people put to crap. Because everything we have is about 2 or 3 people away. We have no direct control over it. And we're tired of it. So what you're going to find is, you're going to find them, you're going to find your rascal and irate people. Perhaps that's what you're talking to you. And when you're talking to you, because at the same time, you're saying, oh, people, what people buy people, you go to crap. Not that way at all. And all of you were so nice. It's good thing I'm not on the legislature because I will be thrown out the first day. I just know it was. You're an asshole, we're an asshole, and you can't do that. And I realize it. And I realize that Chip's are nice, and Alan's are nice, and Cheri's are nice, and Chris and Gary's nice, and everything's nice. Time to be nice, time to run things along. Get them done in this legislature.
Thank you, Connie. I kind of agree with that. I would say, I think we can say no, like my kid said, to the federal government in a nice way. And you have something like that, for sure.
You're done.
I think I'm done.
I would just say never mistake kindness for weakness, because the greatest man that ever walked the earth was very kind and had to hold back his power in order not to consume those around him. So never mistake kindness for weakness, because it's not its strength.
Don't forget the good guy.
That's right. That's true.